Who do you think is going to win the World Series, or at least, the two teams that are going to get there at least? Any
Oh
predictions?
man,
If you
I
had
I
to
suck.
predict it.
I suck at predictions. But I'm not just saying this because you have a Glass now jersey behind you. I mean, the
Uh-huh.
Dodgers are always kind of in it. But I would, my dream is for the Seattle Mariners to be in the World Series. I would absolutely love
Interesting.
that. I mean, you talk about a team that I root for. I literally can't root for them because they're in the AL West. But anytime the Mariners are in town, they're just such a great organization. They work hard. Cal Raleigh's like being
Yes.
ridiculous. The coaching staff, like Phil Bone, can fix anybody defensively. Jose. He's
Yeah.
one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite people in the world. Actually, because I was covering the Hall of Fame ceremony when the A's inducted him, and I was on radio, so I was listening to him talk, and he got
Mm,
very emotional. He was
yeah.
very honest. He goes, "This might be the only Hall of Fame I'm ever inducted into." Next podcast, I don't care. Put these guys in the hall. It pisses me off.
Right.
It just gets me so mad. Barry should be in there. Max.
Twitter or X, and I think a lot of the
He's
stuff he
funny.
says is hilarious,
He's good.
especially about A Rod sometimes. Even though I like A Rod, but I like seeing the animosity there.
Merry Christmas to everybody except one
Except,
guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Three balls, two strikes, pressure is on. This is where we discuss real estate, property improvement, and business. Together, we'll strategize on how to win. Welcome to the Full Count. Welcome to Full Count Podcast. We have a cool guest today who's a journalist for the Athletic A's for the baseball team. So, Jessica, thank you for being on today.
Thanks for having me. It's my first off-season podcast. I was making the joke yesterday, like I'm ready to socialize again because it's been a crazy season. But I'm glad that you have me here. I saw your Glass Now interview, and that was really, really great. So good, you're doing great work as well.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I can imagine all the games you guys have to be present at, or at least always
Mhm.
be on top of the stats. I can imagine that's a lot of work to do. So taking that fresh breath air right now during off season is probably a good thing for you.
Definitely. And I mean, I love watching the postseason because I'm more detached, but
Hmm.
like I can actually be a fan again. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm not a fan during the season. It's just like a different mentality. Because I try to go to a baseball game as a fan at least once a season, and it really never happens. So I can actually just embrace this because I know some of the guys, I know some of the managers, but I can also like root for them, and it's fun. It's fun right now.
That is fun, especially when you know someone on the field. You kind of
Yeah.
like root for them, even if they might not be on your team necessarily. You could still like
Right.
root for them.
And it's always interesting. I don't know who to root for certain aspects because it's like then you get to be a fan. It's like, oh, I'm this because my dad was here or
Mm,
my brother took me to my first game. So you get to hear those stories. And
right.
for me, I don't have to worry about anything beyond like, oh, I'm rooting for this guy or I'm rooting for this manager and like what have you and stuff. And it's exciting because October baseball is like a hot mess in the best way. In the
Right.
best way. Yeah.
Right. That's funny you say that about those stories and like seeing where your loyalty kind of goes to, because
Mhm.
I get so much flack from my co-host because I like two baseball teams, and that's the Angels because I was present at I think it was game 7 2002 when they won the World Series against the Giants. So because of that reason, and I grew
Right.
up in Orange County, that's my team. But my actual team that I like am more passionate about is the New York Yankees.
Okay, so you have a East Coast and a West Coast
Right.
team. Good
Yeah.
for you.
That's been
That's
since I was a
actually a
little kid.
very that's a unique combo,
Hmm.
Angels and Yankees. I don't think I've ever heard of that. That's
Really.
cool.
Who's your
Yeah.
team?
Well, the A's.
Okay.
I actually did grow up an A's fan, but I got my start covering the minor leagues for the Diamondbacks organization.
Oh, sweet.
And then, my best friend works for the Orioles, so I pay attention to them. I'm a big Joey Votto fan, so I was paying attention to the Reds, and it's just kind of one of those things. And then I covered the Giants for a few years, and then Bo Mel was one of my, mentors heading into
Oh,
my
wow.
career and stuff. So I have every team I can actually say I'm rooting for them for some reason.
Hmm.
There's just a lot less that I have to worry about heading into the postseason. So that's kind of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Who do you think is going to win the World Series, or at least the two teams that are going to get there at least? Any
Oh
predictions?
man,
If you had
I
to
suck.
predict it.
I suck at predictions. But I'm not just saying this because you have a Glass Now jersey behind you. I mean, the
Uh-huh.
Dodgers are always kind of in it. But I would, my dream is for the Seattle Mariners to be in the World Series. I would absolutely love
Interesting.
that. I mean, you talk about a team that I root for. I literally can't root for them because they're in the AL West. But anytime the Mariners are in town, they're just such a great organization. They work hard. Cal Raleigh's like being
Yes.
ridiculous. The coaching staff, like Phil Bone, can fix anybody defensively.
Hmm.
I One of the first guys I ever covered was Christopher Negron for the Reno Aces in AAA. Now he's the third base coach for the Mariners. So I just love that organization so much, and they work so hard. And it's the one team the A's struggle against out of all the other 28 teams. It's just that one team they cannot beat.
Wow.
Like they'll sweep the Astros, they'll do fine against the Yankees, but when the Mariners are in town, you really have to hold your breath. And that's what's kind of interesting for that team. So I that's my dream scenario, is Mariners against literally anybody else.
That would be cool. I mean, there's potential. They're looking really good, a
Totally.
lot better than I expected.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how they were going to handle the postseason because they don't really handle the postseason that much. But I mean, you think about the Eugenio Suarez, and then you have Kike Hernandez, who literally gets brought on because of October baseball.
Right.
And I think when you see these guys, dominate, and you have like a scenario, because that's what matters. Once you get to the postseason, then it's how you perform in the postseason. If you're limping to the postseason, who cares? It's just whether you get there or not.
Right. And for those watching, I just want to let everyone know it's October 8th, just so everyone's aware. So we don't know who's there yet. So we'll have to see. No, that was fun that we already got off on a good foot with talking about baseball and everything. Right. I wanted to see if you could briefly introduce yourself and how you got to be where you're at today for the A's.
Yeah. You said briefly? Okay, that's going to be interesting. So I have a very unique story, and one that I'm very proud of. When I was 11 or 12, I should really look up the actual age I was, because I've been telling the story so long, but I actually played Little League as a girl. I didn't know softball was a thing. I thought girls just had to play baseball, but when you look at the numbers and the ratio, I was the only girl on the team for years, but I wanted to go to a real baseball game, and we happened to come across this great deal with the A's, which you always get a great deal back in the day. It was like $10 or $5 seats. And I was living in Reno at the time. Okay. And so we decided to take a day trip. We just bought a new car. My dad was like, let's drive down there. So it was really funny. The moment we sat down, or we got to the Coliseum, they ran out of these $5 or $10 tickets. They said, well, we'll still honor the price, but we'll give you box seats. Because we were a little bit late.
Dang, yeah.
Yeah. So we were late. And my dad was like, it was the best thing that we could have done, was be a little bit late.
Right.
And so we got box seats. The moment I sat down, the third baseman hits a home run. That week, I happened to switch from first to third base. And so it was one of those things where I was like, oh, who is this guy? And I looked at the program, which somebody dropped on the ground. And it turns out Eric Chavez and I shared the same birthday. So it was Eric Chavez who hit the home run. Wow. I switched to third base, quite a few years apart, but that's neither here nor there. But it was cool because he was that guy. I didn't realize he was like the most popular guy on the team either. And then when I looked at the program, I saw the center fielder resided in Reno, Nevada, which is where I was living. Fast forward a bunch of years later, there's actually Mark Kotze. And so just one of those full circle moments. So on the drive home, I asked my dad, do girls cover baseball? I know I can play, but fair question. And the joke is well, I started talking out of the womb. So I had to get a job in some sort of communication. And on the drive, my dad said, well, not really, but let's do that. My dad was old school too. He was really, I love that he wanted me to pursue my dream, but he would have been totally fine. If you want to get married and have kids and stay at home, I'll support that, but make sure it's something that you want to do. And so from that day on, we just sit and watch A's games. And as time went on, I thought I was going to be the first female MLB player. And apparently you have to hit 100-mile-an-hour balls, all these secondary pitches, and be over 5 feet tall, to do this. So I was like, maybe that's not going to work out, but I got close. But all the people who did make fun of me in high school saying I wasn't going to make it to the bigs, it's fine. They see me in the bar.
You talk to them. You're on the field.
It's totally fine. Yeah. So, fast forward a bunch. I dropped out of college. I wasn't a good student. I just went to school for literally writing and stats, which was kind of funny. And as time went on, I just left my very cushy government job to pursue this thing. And I started a blog, and the blog turned into getting some traction. That turned into radio, podcast appearances before podcasts were really a thing. And that turned into TV. And then MLB.com came around. This is when Cut 4 had an actual blogging site. And then I did some blogs for them for about a year and a half. NBC Sports Bay Area found me. And then I moved to the Bay to cover all the teams in the Bay Area. But I had, a little bit of an extra, I was paying more attention to the A's. And then I turned in kind of the pseudo beat reporter. I got fired from NBC Sports 4 years ago, and the A's picked me up right away. So now with the A's now, and I just thought I was going to be a writer, and that turned into radio, and that turned into podcasts, then TV. And then you can break up the different, radio was something I never thought I would do. And then the next thing you know, 3 seasons ago, I'm hosting the pre and post game show. I'm doing all these different interviews, and that was something I can add to my arsenal. And I've always done TV, but I'm finally doing analyst work, which is very rare. They usually have former MLB players doing it, but I finally got into it and I'm obsessed with it. I absolutely love it. It's so much fun because I get to show off my reporting and my former baseball skills. I'm lucky with the guys that I work with because they're not just only patient with me, but they understand the questions I'm asking and the reason why, because I'm an extension of them at the end of the day. So it's just been really fun to do every little thing. And that's what I've always wanted to do. So I'm still writing for Baseball America. I'm doing the radio stuff. I do in-game stuff. I do pre and post. I do analyst work. And that's what I've always wanted to do, is kind of be the Mike Trout, the 5-tool player of sports media. And I'm very lucky that I get to do that.
So
that's the short version.
Yeah, you're a utility player. I mean, in your field.
Yes.
Did you? I know you mentioned you didn't expect to go on radio, but that's quite a difference from being a writer, being behind the scenes to many degrees, to now being like on TV all the time. So
yeah,
that's just a constant leap in a different direction, but in the same realm.
Yeah.
Basically,
and I love the challenge of it too. Like, because like people like radio, if I'm on the post game show, I have 30 minutes to an hour to just yap. And sometimes we will get a phone call from a fan. Sometimes we won't. And so I joke that like back in the day when I was the talkative student, they'd put my desk in the hallway because I wouldn't stop talking. Like, now I get paid to do that.
Right.
And so then you go from an hour show to a 30-minute show, which is really a 22-minute show, which is like 3 to 4 to 5 minute segments, and you're breaking things down. And I didn't realize how much I loved that. So you're right. Like, one day I don't know what I'm going to be doing sometimes. Like, maybe I'll do a radio hit. Maybe I'll do TV. Maybe I'll do a podcast. Maybe I have to write something. So I think that's my favorite part, is the challenge of it. And if I don't overthink it, that's when I thrive too. And then being able just to like learn more about the game and the minutia that goes into it from the guys in the front office, and the business side and the emotional side and the family and all of those aspects, because I take one piece of information and I try to like branch it out into 5 different things. And even if I don't have anything to do that day, I'm picking the brains of some of these guys. Like, why did you do that? Why'd you do this?
Right.
And I think it's just one of those things that you can never have too much knowledge. You can never have too many relationships. And just being a curious person, I never thought that would actually benefit me. And now I'm lucky enough where I can do a little bit of everything. Because plus I just get bored really easily. And it's nice to like have a job that doesn't make me feel that way.
Yeah. I think curiosity is definitely key to like thrive in anything, because it makes you go to different directions and do different things and get good at different things, and not just stick into one little funnel of something. So no, that's impressive. Now, in terms of your analyst side of things, do you look at a specific website on all the stats, or do you have your own like website in terms like through the organization of the A's?
I mean, for stats wise, I barely use them, to be honest. It's more or less just like I know people are obsessed with numbers, so I reference them because people want the proof. They need to be defined by a number. And baseball is the sport that you have to do that the most in.
Right.
And honestly, as a non-former MLB player, as a woman, I do have to depend on those numbers, but I mentioned them briefly, but then I'll talk about the conversation I had with, Jeffrey Springs, and when the change-up fastball combo isn't working, what do you do? Or, when you don't get too behind in the count, or then I'll like really pick the brain of Lawrence Butler, who tries to do too much. And then I'll break down his swing a little bit more. And that stuff you don't necessarily need stats for. But I'm a baseball reference girl. I love Fangraphs. I used to blog for Fangraphs. It was a very tough blog because I was starting out. I didn't know what I was doing. And I definitely got a lot of pushback from the lovely fans that pay attention to baseball, which I used to hate, but now I'm very appreciative of them because, they make you want to be better, even though that's not their goal anyways. But so I do those types of things. Savant too. I'm a big Savant girl because I like watching the pitching breakdown and stuff. I never thought I'd get into pitching either. That it never really like was something I wanted to nerd out about. But when Pitching Ninja is one of your favorite people in the world, and I actually went to a World Series and hung out with Rob the entirety of a game. Jamal Charles brought us beers. It was a whole thing. It was the coolest thing ever. And so to get lost with Pitching Ninja in downtown Houston was a bucket list item I didn't know existed until that day. So just watching him, what he does, you can have fun with it too. I think you can easily access numbers, and people do a beautiful job about that. But what's the story behind those numbers? And that's something
Right.
that I love to pick the brains of, because even if you talk to a guy and you come up with them and say, oh, here's your ERA, it's more or less just like, well, you changed your pitching grip on your sweeper. Like, how is that helping you at all? Or your slider and this and that, just because those are things that I can explain to the audience, because sitting there talking about numbers can only get you so far. You look at the former MLB players themselves, they're not sitting there throwing exit velo out at you and spin rate, like, and these numbers till nauseum. They're breaking down the pitches and how you hit against these people. I'm lucky enough to cover Nick Kurtz in his amazing debut and what he was able to do, to see like pictures of the Tyler Glasnows of the world, if you will, the big names, Justin Verlander. Tarek Skubal wasn't afraid to throw against Nick Kurtz, and to see these guys throwing out the stuff that puts them in Cy Young Award conversations, and then Nick responding in the only way he knows how to. That's the stuff that I love. And you talk to the opposing players, it's like, what's it like going up against him? Like when like Brent Rooker, don't ask him about going up against Ben Joyce. He hates it, but you want to know why. You want to know why. And even that situation too is like, even if somebody of a veteran status of Brent, or somewhat veteran status of Brent, you want to know, if you can hit opposite, foul pole to foul pole and you're younger, the maturation process, do you ever stop maturing at the plate? And he said, no, like, you have to figure out when you go up against these pitchers with a specific pitch. And he's a chess guy of the game, both literally and figuratively. So those are the things that I want to know, because then I can say, I talked to him about it. We had a great conversation about it. And hopefully I can relay the message to the public as well as I possibly can.
Right. No, that's intense when you're asking these questions to these ball players. I'm sure the nervousness can happen, especially, did you see when Manny Machado was asked a question about how he assessed the season?
Yeah. So I've definitely been called out for layup questions, and I deserved it from people that I trust. If it's somebody that like I've been interviewing for a long time, they're like, Jessica, that was a dumb question. I don't know if you saw, I actually posted a video asking the players if I've ever asked a stupid question. And Brent Rooker said no, and that's a lie, but he's a good sport
nice
about
guy,
it.
Yeah.
I've definitely asked him a stupid question before. I think he was just trying to be nice, and it's subjective. What's a stupid question? I remember Matt Olson, this is during COVID, so it was all Zoom conversations, and I can't see, I'm a very big body language person, and I can only see him from here up.
That's tough.
I think he got like his career's umpteenth RBI or something. And it was a big deal. Like, they made a graphic on Twitter. That's how you know it's a big deal. And they lost the game, and he just looked mad. And I was like, okay, so is it fair to say you'd rather the team win than get this individual accolade? And he goes, yeah. And of course they clipped it and posted it. I don't regret asking that question for a moment, though.
Right.
Either he gave me a great response. It was a stupid question, but I love that he was like, okay, he's a guy. He wants his team to win, and he wasn't being selfish. So I don't regret asking that question at all. But as time goes on, I need to be better about not asking those stupid questions. And I can almost kind of understand where both Manny and the reporter were coming from. I mean, it's tough when you have to answer questions right off the bat. I don't know if you ever saw Blake. What's that basketball player's name?
I don't watch basketball
but
too much. Blake.
He's actually kind of famous in the non. Anyway, so he went on a show and he was talking about like how you have to ask post-game questions and the guys are out of breath. And so your oxygen isn't all the way up to your head yet. And we're asking them about like their childhood traumas and the third inning at bat.
Yeah.
And so I made the joke about it because we had to do that with Brent Rooker once where he was like out of breath. And I'm like, oh, we should probably like wait next time. And like I said, they don't, and so I think those aspects are important because we definitely forget these guys are human beings. And I know that because my DMs are filled with who's going to start because my fantasy team, my fantasy championship. I don't care. Great that you drafted Shea Langoliers and Tyler Soderstrom. That has nothing to do with me. So it's just one of those things, but it's kind of interesting to see. And I'm glad Manny had that reaction. Same thing. Like, call me out. If I did something stupid, call me out.
Yeah.
and that has happened before. So I'm not.
Yeah. When the camera stopped, I heard him say something like, "Come on, you don't ask those." I think he said stupid
better.
questions. I don't know. You know better. I don't
I think he
remember
said
exactly.
better,
Okay.
which I think is a great thing too. Like
Yeah.
it's like, come on, man. Like we've had this relationship, but I can see both sides.
There's mixed feelings between some people are like that was messed up of Manny. Other people get it.
Well, people paint Manny Machado in a
do.
certain light, so
They
they're
do.
just going to say, I think he's very misunderstood.
Yeah.
But I think it's
Best
one of
third
those
baseman
things.
though. One of the best.
Oh, he's great. He's
Yeah.
great. I mean, I covered Chappie, so I don't know. They're kind of. I mean, no, I will agree. I like Manny a lot. But that's a whole different podcast.
Right.
But it's one of those things where he's already got like kind of that reputation, which I think is painted inaccurately. But it's one of those things where good for him for calling out the reporter, right? And it sounds like the reporter, like if they have a good enough relationship, I'm sure later on they'll be like, we can talk this out. But I love that he was like, better. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't,
Right. Now, in terms of intensity, I want to check with you. Have you ever had like a pressure moment in your career? Because you obviously jumped through different hoops to get to where you are. Right. Because this is a podcast called Full Count, so it's in literal terms, 3-2 count. So a lot of pressure. Has there been like a full count moment in your career that you recently had, and what was the end result of that?
During COVID was a lot. Because I was working for NBC Sports. So we were covering the news in its entirety, not just sports. Right. And mind you, I was covering the sport that was the first to kind of come back from all the COVID stuff, like basketball shut down. And so it wasn't just COVID. I mean, I was talking about these deaths that were taking place. I was learning from Tony Kemp and Marcus Simeon about racial injustice. And I was learning about things that as a white girl, I can't relate to. I have no idea what these guys are going through. And they really like shocked me with a lot of the things that they were dealing with, and certain things that I was saying or other people were saying were actually racist. And I didn't realize those things were. And if they didn't educate me, I would have no idea. Wow. And so those things were really interesting because that's when you want to talk about looking at Baseball Reference. I don't think for a week I cared about some of these numbers. Right. And so I think that was kind of a big moment for me because you were also bringing sports back into the conversation, and you were worried about people who were actually on the field and they were playing. You're worried about their health. Sure. And so that for me was definitely something. But I was very lucky too, like being a woman in the industry, to see some of my favorite people like getting their debuts. Like obviously Jenny Kavnar, she is the head play-by-play for TV, and she's done such a great job. Being able to work with her and be with her every single day. I probably should tell her more like how much it impacted me in the best way, but it's, when you're a day-to-day thing, it's whatever. But I was just so thankful to have like a trust fall woman there throughout the last couple of seasons. My best friend, Melanie Newman, Baltimore Orioles play-by-play, making history. And she's just so good. Another trust fall person. It's one of those things where you see them growing, and you almost forget that being a woman in the industry is rare. And I do all the time I forget. So I think those types of things are, you try not to, you mentioned 3-2 count. These payoff pitch scenarios are more about just not trying to think too much about it. And then later on, when you decompress, you're like, I came through in that clutch moment. And I think those things are what it is. And there's times, a silly one though, was I had a last minute interview on camera to interview MC Hammer. You want to talk about a full count moment?
Yeah.
Wild card game, Andrew. 55,000 fans in the Coliseum, the most of a wild card game ever.
Oh my gosh.
And I found out 30 seconds before. I nailed it, luckily, because I was prepped, because I was going to interview him for an article anyway. But then he also, I don't know if you heard the rumor that people were saying he was a bat boy for the A's.
No.
So that was the rumor. And I talked to him about it on camera. He goes, what? That wasn't me. It was my brother. So I got to kind of debunk this small little rumor that took place forever. And you want to talk about a full circle moment. Just in February, I was at Ricky Henderson's memorial, and MC Hammer was performing there. So it's just one of those types of things. And I thrive in those situations, the last minute things, because I'm an overthinker. So you want to talk about a utility player, get me off the bench, I'll come through clutch. But yeah, it's one of those things. So I love those moments for sure.
And that's probably why you are where you are right now, because in order to deliver when it counts is very difficult. And the fact that you were able to decompress after the fact, I mean, I feel like when it comes to career, anyone in career, or obviously, an athlete, that's like the best way to go. So that's cool. That's good to know. Now I want to dive into the A's. There's a lot of things going on. They're currently in Sacramento.
Like what? Like what? What's going
Well,
on?
they're in Sacramento.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. I haven't heard anything that's going on.
Yeah, I know. We can go into different ways
Yeah.
of that, but so they're in Sacramento. They're eventually in a few years plan to be playing in a new ballpark in Vegas, right? But there's a lot of mixed feelings from the fans. You being directly with them, what are you hearing from both sides? I guess.
Well, from the thing I've been really impressed with how the Athletics are handling things is embracing the community. And it was really interesting because I got a lot of questions about the new debut of the Sacramento uniform in
Oh
2026.
yeah.
And first of all, I didn't realize the guys like the gold uniforms way better than the Kelly green uniforms. That's a whole different thing. But I was just really impressed with the way that they embrace the community and vice versa. There was actually times where I thought it was funny. You could be a fair weather fan. I don't care, but because you're like giving us money for the sport that I love so much. But when I was walking around talking to fans, they're like, I'm just here because I want to get to know these guys. I don't know much about them. And I think that was kind of exciting too, because they're saying, I'm still trying to figure out my favorite player. And this was about halfway through the season. So I'm sure by now they have a few that they like. And sometimes it's like a fun atmosphere. A baseball game is a fun atmosphere. And I think we need to remember you don't have to like know stats to enjoy baseball. You can actually just go to a game and have fun. But the beautiful thing is I've seen a lot of familiar Oakland faces. They're at the stadium in West Sacramento. And luckily they care more about the team than anything because we had to adjust. It's a new stadium, and Mark Kotze talked about it recently, and because of course he's getting asked about it. The facilities are the facilities; they are what they are. The amenities are what they are. The clubhouse is gorgeous. It's a brand new clubhouse. It's a two-story clubhouse, which I never had been a part of, but they get taken care of there. It is kind of funny to watch, Kotz get ejected and he has to walk all the way down to the clubhouse, which is behind the outfield. That's for me, I didn't. Yeah. And so for me, it's more or less just like, I think once the move actually happened, they were able to concentrate on baseball, which the second half, like the team went off, and it was so much fun to just concentrate on the baseball stuff, because last year was, what's going to happen if they move or when they move. And now that it happened, they can concentrate on baseball a little bit more. And that's something that I was really excited to cover. Because I was there for the last game at the Coliseum. It was like one of the best days of my career and my life. And knowing that that I can hold on to that so well, and the pictures and the history and just embracing it, and being able to know that I lived that life with that amazing team and the amazing city and the amazing history involved, and not realizing that, watching Dave Stewart on TV, and now I can, talk to him about anything baseball related. Those things don't leave you. A franchise is a franchise. It's still going to be your numbers in the history of a certain franchise. It's not just necessarily a city, but yeah, it was difficult. Don't get me wrong. I think we all knew that. Fans were emotional, and you saw that both on the first game of the season and the last game of the season in 2024. So it was interesting, and we made it work. But it's one of those things that I love the Coliseum. It was so unique. It was old school.
Yeah.
Like they literally called it the last dive bar because it was just so unique. And I'm from Reno, Nevada, where I love a dive bar, let me tell you. And so that's why I kind of resonated with it. Mind you, when I told you my first game I went to when I was 11, it didn't change when I was, 20 and then in my 30s. So I think it was one of those things that I loved the most because it stayed the same. I know people wanted to, and it did get upgrades and everything, but it still remained true and had the old school feel, which Fenway's very old. People don't really bash on that, And so it's just one of those things that it was beautiful, and I'm so glad to be a part of it. And it was history, both ending and the beginning of the Sacramento stuff. But overall, it's been actually pretty great how the fans have embraced it.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. You are right. The franchise is the franchise. The thing is, the community or the city is being left to some degree, but at the same time, the stats and the players and all that, and the passions can still be moved to somewhere else, right?
Right.
So no, that's fascinating. Now, those that are watching and listening, in case they don't know what exactly is going on with the A's, can you kind of give an overall summary of what's happening, especially if there's anything new in the last few weeks that I haven't even looked into regarding the Vegas
the team. Oh, Vegas.
In terms of Vegas, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they broke ground.
Okay.
And if you want to like follow, the A's are being very good about posting the upgrades. There's actually like a live footage of the construction going
Really?
on. They broke ground last season,
Okay.
and or during this past season. And it was one of those things where even A's GM David Forrest said, like, how many times have I said, waiting to break ground? And
Yeah.
they did. They had a full on ceremony for it. And so it's kind of like, oh, this is actually happening. And they have the renderings out. It looks gorgeous.
Oh
They have
yeah. Heck
they
yeah.
had
I'm
yeah they
excited
had the
for
guy
it.
yeah they had the guys coming
Selfishly.
out. Yeah, I had the guys having coming out and like meeting with locals and embracing Vegas. And I'm kind of not part of all that just because I have to do all my stuff back in the studio and make sure the team's being covered.
Hmm.
But it's looking really really cool and
Where
great. And
where can we find that live? Sorry to cut you off, but I want to know before I forget to ask you, where can we
it's
find
just
that
the
live stream?
athletics website,
Oh,
so
okay.
MLB.com
Okay.
slash athletics. Yeah, and they tweet about a bunch of stuff too, like on their
Sweet.
social.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe I'm a realtor, so I feel that that's going to help the Vegas community, just like the Raiders stadium did as well, and it's going to bring some more life into the area. And then selfishly, I want to go to those games as well because it's so much closer to me.
It would be really cool to like have like bottle service at like
Yeah,
an A's game. That's the goal. That's the next goal. I'm gonna have bottle service at an A's game. I think that'd
right.
be cool.
I heard there's going to be
I'm
like
off.
a luxurious adjacent hotel, and adjacent to the stadium. There's going to be a luxurious hotel, is what I meant,
Yeah.
and rooms and a bunch of cool stuff, casinos. So I do see the positives. So Rob Manfred, I think he's also excited for it. Again, there's the negative side. I don't want to spare that away like that doesn't exist. But Jose Canseco is pretty excited about it. I think a lot of it's because he's also living in Vegas, from what I understand,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
also now a part of the Hall of Fame, which I was surprised for the A's that they did that. But I'm glad they did. I've
It
always
was
liked Jose,
yeah.
to be honest.
I love Jose.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite people in the world. Actually, because I was covering the Hall of Fame ceremony when the A's inducted him, and I was on radio, so I was listening to him talk, and he got very emotional. He was
Yeah.
very honest. He goes, "This might be the only Hall of Fame I'm ever inducted into. Next podcast, I don't care. Put these guys in the hall. It pisses me off.
Right.
It just gets me so mad. Barry should be in there. Max should be in there. Clemens. The list goes on and on. But needless to say, to see him, be a human, because same thing. People don't know Jose Canseco or the Manny Machados or the Mark McGwires as people. They just look
Right.
at them as, you want to talk about a number,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, the records are there because they mean something. But it was a really cool moment, and I remember a lot of fans embracing that because they got to see Jose and like how much he loves the game, and
Right.
and he played. You could see when he played how much he loved the game, and not just offensively but defensively, and the Bash brothers, and that was
Oh
part
man,
of it.
yeah.
Like that took over the entirety of Major League Baseball, and of course I wasn't old enough to see it,
Same.
but being able to hear stories about people who talked about it, Dave Stewart tells me all the time, and even picking Jose, and Mark McGwire remembers every little thing that took place when he was playing.
Wow.
And he still works with a bunch of the guys too, which is really cool. He's on our staff. And so it's just kind of one of those things where, the game hasn't changed much, which is great. I think as time goes on, I talked about Pete Rose, like my whole thing was he was going to get inducted maybe post-mortem.
Right.
And that was always my thought, but it was just, you cannot fake how these guys played.
Right.
I don't know steroids enough to know like the bits and pieces, but I don't think you can inject something and hit a ball over the fence. I don't think
it's talent. To make contact is talent. Either way, Jose was doing good. I don't know the numbers too much, but I know he was doing good even without the juice for a little while. But either way, I mean,
but we don't know. We don't know.
Right. Whatever he did a lot for the game. Like him and Mark McGwire, they really brought baseball back to be cool. So I love him for that. And then he also played for the Yankees for a minute, so I like him for that reason too.
There you go.
And I follow him on Twitter or X, and I think a lot of the stuff he says is hilarious.
He's good.
Especially about A-Rod sometimes, even though I like A-Rod, but I like seeing the animosity there.
Merry Christmas to everybody except one guy.
Yeah, exactly. So I do this thing on the podcast where I like to ask a question to the guest that I'm talking to right now, which is you. If you can leave a question for my next guest and you don't even know who it is, right? And I don't even know who it is. So I know it's a little vague, but first I want to ask the question that Tyler Glasnow.
Tyler Glasnow is asking me this question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So let's see. What do you say? He said, what brings you the most confidence in yourself? What makes you feel fulfilled in yourself? And what are you afraid of the most?
I was going to ask like the next guest if he thought a hot dog was a sandwich. So this is making me, okay. So let's start from the beginning. The most confidence.
Yeah. What brings you the most confidence in yourself, and what makes you feel fulfilled in yourself? I mean, this guy goes deep. He's like a philosopher.
Yeah. Okay. So confidence wise, weirdly enough, it's just myself. Mind you, when you meet me, I feel like I'm very confident, but 5 seconds later, I can be the most insecure person in the world. And that's difficult dealing with my brain when it's like going crazy. I know the people in my life have seen it. And so I think it's just me. It's me. I am trying to adopt this thing. And I was talking to one of the guys about it this season. I have to pretend like anytime I was ever bad at something never existed. So like I have to go in to like my analyst work, for instance. For some reason, I was so in my head, even though I've been doing it for years.
Right.
For some reason this season, I was just like, I can't do this. And I just remember on the first day of me like returning to this role, I just kind of had to tell myself like, you're just going to talk about baseball. So I think that's what it is. It's reminding myself that in this present moment, nothing exists behind you and in front of you. And so how could I be bad at anything if I don't remember anything that took place, right? So it's no different than like if you have anxiety, you're thinking about the future, right? Or if you're depressed, you're thinking about the past. So I think it's just that. It's just reminding myself to get reconnected with my brain.
That's a great technique.
Yeah.
That's a really good technique.
Yeah. And it's a game changer. And I swear it's such a game changer. Fulfilled is when I hang out with my friends. If I have a good, like, if my heart feels full, if I can see a lot of my best friends don't live near me. So if I get to see them, it's because there's a baseball situation happening or it's a special trip. So I can't tell you the amount of times I'll have like a good meal with somebody or a good FaceTime chat and my heart is absolutely fulfilled. So it's definitely the relationships that I possess. I'm lucky to have them because when it comes to my friends, it's the one thing I'm ridiculously confident in is like I have the best friends in the whole wide world, and I'll put those against anybody. And the third part?
Third part is what are you afraid of the most?
What am I afraid of the most? Letting myself down, I think. And I think that has a lot to do with like not following through, and that's discipline, right? Like letting myself down means like I'm not doing what I sought out to do, and that's not just career wise. It's, having the mindset of like, making sure that I don't remind myself all the times that I failed, and like just as being a good friend, being a good aunt, being a good sister. Like I'm single, but one day if I'm a mom, I'd love to be a good mom and a good wife. But I also know that like those are so subjective and they all think that they're failing at one point. So for me, it's like, as long as the people in my life think that I'm doing well by them, I'm okay. I never used to care because I used to just be like, oh, as long as I'm okay. It's like, no, there are people that depend on me.
Right.
And I think that makes me feel fulfilled. Right. And so I think it's just going against my own. That means like settling in a job, settling in a relationship, settling in friendships, not being disciplined with like work, or if I'm trying to work out. Like I recently lost a bunch of weight and I was really excited about that. And I finally came through with that. And that was more difficult for me than like interviewing MC Hammer in front of a crowd of 55,000 people. Right. So it was just one of those things. So I think though, like going against my own stuff and because like I'm finally feeling like I'm the person I was always supposed to be. And that's tough when you want to be authentic. And I don't think people know what authenticity is, because people think authentic is like, oh, she's like free spirited and walking around. It's like, no, when you introduce yourself to yourself, that's a scary relationship because we're not perfect. And when we figure these things out, that's when you have to go through that. You have to sit in it. You have to introduce yourself in the negative parts, the dark parts. And luckily when you get on the other side of it, you can bring those dark parts with you, but you don't let them control your life anymore. So I think it's just having all my former lives join me, but not take over the new life that I'm building for myself.
That's fantastic knowledge, because I know the Greek philosophers would always say knowledge of self is like the most important thing to know. And that's like the hardest thing to discover within yourself, because a lot of people are moving around life not knowing who they really are. They're putting on a front, and a lot of times it's not intentional, just the way it is, especially with social media. It's very hard to be authentic. So I get that. That's really cool.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Maybe I'll ask the next person that too. Like, how do
I was going to ask your next question.
When was the moment you felt like you were your most authentic self? Not confident, but you were very yourself, whether it's vulnerability or anything like that. And then the second part, I think when it comes to relationships, not just romantic, like what are the most important qualities you want in that person or between you two? So like for my friendships, it's communication. Relationships, I prefer somebody who communicates and is loyal, or like, to be funny or those types of things. I think that's an important question because as human beings, as much as we love to be like alone and like decompress, like we're naturally going to want a hive of people. So I'm just, if you see somebody who's very authentic in themselves, like what makes their relationships work, because there's obviously something good there.
Right. That's really cool. So I just recently started doing this, and the last several guests that I've had, you guys, every single one of you are going deep, and I didn't expect that because I thought everyone was going to ask something very basic.
I was going to ask if a hot dog was a sandwich, but Glassno made me like remind myself what I talked about to my therapist a week ago. So it's kind of one of those things. I can't let Tyler down. So I think that's what's kind of cool. And like, that's the thing too, is like, I think the beauty of, and I'm not bashing on you, but like when people ask me about stats and stuff, is like, I don't know how to be surface level. Right. I don't know how to actually do that. And unfortunately we live in a society where everybody's surface level, like, for sure. Like I'm editing out pimples on my Instagram stories. Like I get nervous when I go on TV and I don't look a certain way. Because unfortunately, as a woman, that's what matters. But it's like, I wish people could look past it, because at the end of the day, like I want to know the heartbeat under the uniform, like why these numbers look like that, or what your mentality was when you were changing your grip, or your first spring training without having to rehab an injury. What did that feel like? And, they're human beings. They get married, they have babies. I want to hear about that stuff too. And how they're able to turn it off the moment they get home. And that stuff is what I think kind of makes me a little bit different than a lot of other people that I work around, because you could easily be like, oh, okay, you switched your grip. Thanks. Have a nice day. I'm not built that way. So, which can be a lot, because I want to like know more, and that could be annoying to some people, but sorry. I care about you and I want to know, what are you going to do?
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. No, thank you for sharing that. Now I have the last questions, because this is still a real estate show where we incorporate baseball into it. So it's rapid fire house edition. So I'll ask you some quick questions with options, and then you go with whatever suits you.
Great.
So beach house or penthouse?
Beach house.
Okay. City view or treetop view?
Ooh, I'd say, am I looking and like the city is there, or I'm looking from the city?
You're looking from within the city, and then the treetop, you're probably, within
in the suburbs.
I don't even think, no, not necessarily suburbs. More like foresty, like.
Okay, treetops then.
Treetop, okay. Yeah. All right, you like that peacefulness.
Yeah.
Modern farmhouse home in terms of architecture, or a colonial revival home?
I'm so basic. I love a modern farmhouse with some more modern touches, like not too Joanna Gaines, but like there's some pops in there.
Those are very popular. They're starting to phase out a little bit from the trend.
I noticed that. I don't want it too farmhousey though. Like I don't want like milk jugs everywhere. I don't want like a bunch of distressed wood on things. Like I like a pop of the modern farmhouse, but I'm more toward that than colonial. Okay,
cool. Fitness room or podcast room?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes. The answer is yes.
No.
I'll take both.
You take both. Okay. Okay. Yes. Cool. All right. So we're at the end now, but I want everyone to know where people can find you on social media, if you want to throw that out, and then we'll put it on as well.
Yeah. So on X, because that's a new thing, Kleinschmidt JD. I'm hardcore in Threads right now. So you can follow me on Threads, Jessica Kleinschmidt, which is the same as Instagram. Okay. I think I'm actually going to go more toward Threads, just because Well, just spend 5 minutes on X and you'll see why.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot.
so just, yeah, it's a lot. So I'm doing a lot of that. TikTok is for me is blowing up right now. So I'm Jess Kleinschmidt on there.
Okay.
And I do not just sports related things, but I do have some sports stuff. I have another sports TikTok that I'm planning. It's going to be hilarious and wonderful.
Sweet.
But yeah, I'm trying to keep things relevant in the off season. So I appreciate everybody following me because that's a big reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because of my social media presence. So
Good. And we'll have some more follow you as well. So that'll be great. And I really appreciate you coming on. I think we should do another one in the near future. That'd
definitely.
be great. And then my goal is eventually to do some like actually in person and more so on baseball fields to see if that could ever work out one day. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should. I mean, like the dugout interview thing is
A
picking
thing.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And we'll have you back on.
sounds good. Thanks for having me.